the time we've all been waiting for. Finally, we made it. We made it to the best ball playoffs. We made it to the best ball playoffs. We already got 84 teams in 62 in the Millie. I don't know what that means, Pecan. I don't know what that means. But we're here. It's the most bittersweet feeling of all time. It's been the longest season ever. If you follow John Daigle, he tweets about this all the time. And it somehow is getting worse. Significantly worse. But I'm excited. I think everybody that has gotten into this best ball thing is excited, as you should be, that we made it this far. We're now into the playoffs. This is the fun part, right? This is what you draft for. How many teams did you advance? Are my teams alive? How many of your teams that you advance are they like? Do you actually feel good about them? I have plenty that I don't feel good about. And now it's like complete and utter anarchy. The NFL is pure chaos right now. I don't even really know what exactly to think. It's still so early in the week, and 62. That is outrageously good. 62 teams advancing is like unreal. Good luck, sir, and great work. That's amazing. I don't remember how many I have. Too many teams. I drafted too many teams. I tried to do a bunch of tabulations and stuff yesterday, kind of in preparation for this. But I feel like the overarching theme I'm interested what Steven says here is everything, right? It's like on one hand, I think as much kind of variance and chaos that happens is good. Like the whole point of this game, this silly, stupid ass best ball game that we play and we draft. It's December, and I have teams that are advancing now that I drafted in May. People drafted before me in April, right? We play this, and we're not going to know the answer still for another 3 weeks, right? We're not going to know the answer for like 7 months after you drafted these teams. We're like, that's insane, first of all, when you think about it. But we do that because actually of this chaos and this variance, right? And so on one hand, I think, I don't want to say this is good. Obviously, I don't want people getting COVID, whatever. We don't need to do the medical hour. But on one hand, as much like if ratchet up the variance is good. And I think people struggle with that. I think people struggle with the fact that this game is complete and utter chaos. And that's why we talk about structure. That's why we talk about all these strategies, right? Hyper fragile is the sexiest one, right? 0 RB, whatever. Why we talk about all that is because those are different ways for us to capitalize on the chaos that we're seeing right now. This type of chaos is, I mean, how the hell could you guess we would get to the playoff week and it would be the most insane point in kind of the COVID times of this season, right? I mean, we're getting like record level guys going on the COVID list, which is, like I said, on one hand, obviously it's very bad, like real life, it's bad. But the amount of variance is like, it feels like to me, I don't know what you guys think. It feels like to me that like, use the Peter Overzet bit on like a DFS slate, like the slate just got flipped on its head. That's how I feel right now about these best ball playoffs. I look at my teams. I'm sure you guys have looked at your teams, and like I have plenty of teams I don't really feel very good about. Mainly on underdog, I don't feel very good at all about my entire portfolio of teams that are advancing. But if you take a step back, you're like, if I hear a lot of people saying that, so everybody is feeling that, and then we're getting every day, we're getting new guys being placed on the COVID list, and there's just no way to know what kind of impacts we're going to get from that, right? Like the one that jumped out to my mind mostly because it hurt me probably the most is like Alexander Mattison goes on the COVID list and he is not vaccinated, so he tests positive, he's automatically out 10 days, right? So not that he with Dalvin back was going to be anything this weekend, but you never know, right? You just never know when a guy rips off a 50-yard touchdown or steals a goal line touchdown from Dalvin or whatever. And you just have these situations with all these guys getting knocked out. Odell, right? We obviously have the Rams issues. And the NFL might do something right now to kind of combat this. But I feel, to me, like I said, I don't know what you guys feel like. I feel like it is so wide open. The latest news that I did want to talk about, I really wanted to touch on while I'm thinking about it, while it's on the top of my head, is obviously DeAndre Hopkins. So DeAndre Hopkins was low-key one of the biggest bust picks in all of fantasy. Like him and Allen Robinson. People love to talk about other people. And because Nuke was like okay in a few different weeks, he didn't quite get the same label. But obviously, kind of all those guys right there. Ridley, Hopkins, Allen Robinson, McLaurin. A lot of these guys were not very good. Metcalf. And so he kind of has flown under the radar. He's obviously probably going to be a very low advance rate player. But if he gets healthy right before the playoffs, Kyler gets healthy right before the playoffs. We know that they have the Cowboys matchup. They play the Lions this week. Their playoff schedule is great. You're probably, if you snuck DeAndre Hopkins teams through, you're probably very excited. Obviously, that's gone. He's done for the regular season and unsure about the playoffs. But what does that mean now? If you have any combinations almost of any of the other, I think that there's just a trickle down, effect across the entire Cardinals roster. Mainly the wide receivers, of course. But then you have James Conner is also banged up. So there's like this insane trickle down effect to everybody. Obviously, AJ Green and Christian Kirk are probably the biggest beneficiaries. I'm really excited for Rondale Moore. His biggest issue to production has just been flat out getting on the field. This opens that up. Obviously, it's good for Zach Ertz as well. Particularly DeAndre Hopkins is such a red zone threat on a high-powered offense. I mean, if you have Cardinals guys, non-DeAndre Hopkins, and probably non-Kyler Murray, not sure that it matters that much for Kyler, but, you remove Nuke, it's not amazing. But it's like another thing. Right before the best ball playoffs start, the entire Arizona passing attack, besides Nuke, looks like you really want them on your team. The other one, somebody just posted this in Discord here. I'm actually going to share really quick because it's Chrome tab, NFL news. So we see here, Calzone posted this guy right here that Austin Eckler is going to be a game time decision this week. They played the Chiefs on a short week, and he's sore. Austin Eckler has been, he's had a very good year. He's such an interesting. We were talking about him a little bit in Discord yesterday. He is clearly you want him on your teams. He's had a great year. I think everybody should be happy with having Austin Eckler on any sort of advancing team. But he was more so last man standing. He was good. He had a really good year, but it wasn't legendary season. It wasn't oh my God, I don't have Austin Eckler, which is probably how people feel about JT. Oh my God, I don't have JT. 2 years ago, oh my God, I don't have Christian McCaffrey. And so he was kind of this last man standing type of thing. But running back is so bad. Running back is so bad that he was a pretty big edge. And now you have one of the few big edges at running back in a good matchup in a high-scoring game. Spoiler alert, of which there are almost none this week. The slate is one of the worst for game environments of the season. It is horrendous. I don't know if you've looked at it. And so you have the one guy you would probably, and especially if you have an Eckler team without JT, you're This is my shot. JT gets the Patriots. Eckler's in this high scoring game, potentially high scoring game with the Chiefs. I feel really good about this. Now, he may not play. I think he probably toughs it out, right? If it's up to him, if he's truly close enough. I think he, is assuredly going to try to tough it out. But what does that mean? Is he going to cede some snaps? And now he's also maybe not as, this is anarchy, man. This is complete and utter anarchy. We lose multiple guys. Those are to injuries. We have all the COVID stuff going on. And so, like I said, I think this is maybe the most wide open thing we've ever seen, particularly when we take into account like the games of this week too. Let me unshare this. When we take into account that fact, like go look through the schedule for this week and tell me which games you're like, oh man, this is the shootout. This is the game I got to have. Well, I guess it's probably Chiefs Chargers. But it's like I don't have the slightest idea of what like I feel like is a huge favorite right now. And I don't think, I'm not sure that was the case before. And we're sitting here on Wednesday trying to think about it. But like more guys are going to go on the COVID list, as bad as that sucks. It's just going to happen over the next couple of days. And then we're not even getting to talk about injuries because of all the COVID stuff. It's like the injury, this year has been so batshit insane for injuries. Friday is like chaos every week. Every week Friday is like so-and-so's out, DeAndre Swift is out. Oh shit. Didn't really think that DeAndre Swift was going to miss. Okay, now he's out. Okay. I can't think of another person off the top of my head, but like the Friday news dumps every week were an insane amount of guys that end up missing. It's been a crazy year for that. Now we still have that. And that's like barely in the back of our minds because you're just praying that your guy doesn't get put on the COVID list. Like your most important players in the most important week. I mean, I guess 2 weeks from now is the most important week, but you got to get to this championship. Now we've reached the week that we need all of our guys to be there. And like, if you made it there without injuries and then you get hit on the COVID list, it's like absolutely, absolutely brutal. So you guys had a couple of comments that I really want to bring up that are perfect. Yeah, so Hayden says, I think this nonsense rewards people who grinded best in rounds 8 to 18 because those, round 14 picks suddenly matter. When a lot of the times, like you said, your team, of course you had to weather injuries, but we assume in general, teams that got through to the playoffs are healthier than the rest, right? A lot of times it's just luck of the injury draw to advance. Of course you need to hit, right? You need some combination of players that were good, but a lot of the times it's just like, did you stay healthy enough to get there? And so now we reach this point and people are getting knocked out left and right. More important players are getting knocked out left and right. And it's like the guy that jumps to my mind right now, just from recently looking at a few things that you're like, all of a sudden, I really want this guy on my team when I don't even know that I gave a shit about him before, is like Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis stayed healthy. Gabe Davis is a young player, growing in his role already throughout the course of the season in an offense that we really love. Now, all of a sudden, Manny Sanders is out. Do you have Gabe Davis or do you have Brian Edwards? Brian Edwards is healthy, but he's totally useless to you. Rondale. Obviously, this is a fluky situation for what has happened with Rondale or AJ Green or Christian Kirk, all three of them. This is a fluky situation in how it has played out, but those were probably pretty good calculated bets. Did you grind those guys or did you take, I don't know. I can't, I'm really not trying to call out any bad picks, but I think if you were able to build around the right core of double-digit round guys, and then obviously the health thing is a must. It's the ante to the game. You have to have stayed healthy enough and then also get COVID luck to get there. But if you were, and then the other thing is structure, right? The other thing is structure. Like, we can all pretend that we know better on who to draft in the double digit rounds, and I think most of the time there are guys who are better bets than others, but also, like, nobody really had any idea that Eli Mitchell was actually the backup running, Raheem Mostert's backup in San Francisco, right? Cordero Patterson, we had like a little bit of a glimpse that like something was happening with CPAP, but like there's a lot of that variance that we just can't really see coming. Some guys get cut that you don't even really expect to get cut. People thought Brashad Perriman was going to be a wide receiver 1 and he got cut. Thanks, Leone. But it's structure, right? And that's what Jack says. Like, the chaos rewards those who build to capitalize on it. If you build, these are definitely probably the 3 best examples of how you best capitalize on fragility. On capitalizing on fragility equals capitalizing on chaos, right? So how do you do that? Hyper fragile, pray my running backs stay healthy, and then I just have all these wide receivers through volume, and I have healthier, good running backs than everybody else, and just a shit ton of wide receivers. Or the opposite, right? I know inherently that there's going to be chaos at this running back position, so just give me JT as my hero, and then I'll figure out running back 2 the rest of the way, right? You're capitalizing on this fragility. So structure, I feel like everybody that's listening to this, everybody that's in the Spike Week Discord is already doing this. I'm not saying anything that you guys don't already know, but the structure thing just every week feels more and more important. And like this week, even to me, someone who knows how important it has just like hit home. Like, God, if you structured your teams well, and you have JT Mixon, right? You have JT Mixon, and it's like you just went hyper fragile with a JT Mixon. It's like you can make it through an Elijah Moore injury. You can probably make it through a DeAndre Hopkins injury. I don't know about winning the whole thing, but it's like if you structure your team well, you obviously have to get lucky, but if you structure your team well, that's how you can like benefit from these things when everyone else is dying from these things. Please don't bring up the deep state. I don't want to get banned. I don't want to get banned from YouTube. We're just trying to get this thing off the ground. Hayden. Yeah, this is a good way to put it. It's chaos prep. It's chaos prep. But this is also why, like, people, I saw somebody, I can't even remember who it was now off the top of my head, but I saw somebody say like the other day, like in terms of the late round thing, they were talking about like, oh, you got to get contributors in the late rounds. And I agree. But this is also why we draft typically leaning a little bit more towards the younger guys, right? Because not only are they like, and it's not that they have necessarily a better shot to stay healthy, but in general, they kind of do. And then they're ascending and they're at their peak in this playoff time that we're at right now, right? How Rondale got there is lucky, but Elijah Moore was on his way to doing this, right? And so somebody was like, oh, people were idiots for drafting De'Ami Brown. And it's like, De'Ami Brown was a miss, but I don't think that De'Ami Brown archetype of player is wrong. What was wrong at all, actually. It just didn't hit. You don't hit everything. You know what I mean? Let me see. Yeah, Slater is out too. That really sucks. Yeah, I'm assuming that Ridley is not coming back. Obviously, you guys know probably even more than I do. There's just no updates. I kind of feel like at this point, we're so late in the season that unless he just wants to come back and play a cup, right? He gets. Hopefully he's okay and he gets everything, straightened out that he needs to get straightened out, and he just wants to play. But I feel like he's been away for so long. It's like, is he even in football shape? He might just want to sit this one out. So this is also a really good point by Jack. I've been thinking about this a lot. I was thinking about before this show, like and I would love to post in the chat if you have some opinions on some guys, like in terms of separators. Let's call it separators. And I don't just mean low-owned guys or whatever, but guys that you think are probably the biggest advantages heading into this. Who are the biggest advantages? And like the easy answer everyone is always going to say is like, okay, Cup, JT, Lenny, Fournette, right? And I don't disagree with those. But I think Cup, given everything going on, and the fact that Cup was, more of a third, fourth, and sometimes fifth, sixth, super early in drafts, a little bit later pick. The early round, wide receivers are not super smashes, and just everything is setting up for Cup to get 15 plus targets every week. Right now, Odell is out. I don't know if he's out, but I don't think they've announced. You guys can correct me if he's vaccinated. I actually didn't double check that, but obviously Odell is on the COVID list. Robert Woods is out. There's no target competition for Cooper Kupp, and he has a good matchup this week. Meanwhile, JT, who was really like the separator, particularly given position, I'm never going to bet against JT having a good game, and he could certainly still go for 102 here. But this is the toughest matchup JT has had. Outside of, I guess, the Bucks, and honestly, he almost got a little lucky to backdoor a good Bucks game. But Kupp would be the guy where I feel like running back with all the chaos might just be super low scoring in general, and it's been low scoring anyway. But it might just be super low scoring to where you need to smash those wide receivers. And if Kupp is just putting up 20 plus points every single week, and we know he's obviously going to be popular, and you can hit some other wide receivers that do that for these next 3 weeks, I'm not certain that you're going to need the super elite running back game, given the state of the running back position right now, and then obviously some of the matchups and stuff. Now JT has some other good matchups, so you sneak a JT team through, he could absolutely be that guy. But I feel like Kupp is the guy that I keep coming back to as like, man, teams that I have that don't have Kupp, I do feel a lot more behind than teams that have JT, which I'm not sure that I would have said that a few weeks ago. Rams Seahawks that's a really interesting one for DFS as well this week, but that game could be the game that you have to have. I think Chiefs Chargers is the favorite to be the game. Like if you don't have exposure to that game, I'm certain people in your advancing pool, your little advancing league or whatever, are probably going to have some Rams and Seahawks, given how popular Kupp is. Stafford's had a good year. Lockett's actually had a pretty good year. I have a pretty strong clip of Lockett advancing. I think, I guess, I got ahead of myself. But like Chiefs Chargers, right? Mike Williams, obviously Tyreek, Kelsey, CEH, Darrell Williams, and then Eckler has been great. Keenan has been fine. Herbert has been awesome. And so some combination of those guys, if that game really blows up, I think you would love to have that game. And I think Rams Seahawks might be the second one that you would love to have. Packers, Ravens might have been there, but I don't know. We'll see about with Tyler Huntley. Let's see. Oh God. Yeah. I am more than happy to hold every L that I should ever have taken in anything, any sort of gambling venture. I will never, ever hold the Darrington Evans L. It happened. The dream fucking scenario happened. Everyone said Derrick Henry can't get hurt. And everyone said, like, oh, if Derrick Henry gets hurt, like, oh, are these backups are really even worth it? They brought Dontrell Hilliard off the street and Donta Foreman off the street, and they both ran for 200, or they both ran for 100 yards and a touchdown in the same game. Darrington would have been a smash. Darrington would have been a smash. This bit is too good, though, by the way. This is kind of funny. I know no one cares about this, and I'm certainly not expecting. No one besides me cares about this, and I'm certainly not expecting any real good performances from Sam Darnold, even if he does come back. But he did get activated. I think it's interesting for a couple different reasons. He was horrible. He's bad. He's a terrible real life quarterback. They were still somehow better throwing the ball, even with him. And I know he hasn't done it in a long time, but he runs just enough. I think if you have Panthers advancing, certainly if you have Darnold, him coming back is a plus, even though that sounds crazy. Cam and PJ Walker have been somehow worse than Sam Darnold, which is a incredibly low bar. One of the lowest bars ever. And they were somehow worse. So I have Darnold on a handful of advancing teams. Let me look. Sorry, really riveting. 12 teams. I have 12 advancing teams with Darnold. Some of which could probably use him. I know I have a Darnold. Hold on, I got to look at this. I know I have one advancing team with Darnold and Trey Lance, and so it's like, oh my god, it would be amazing if Darnold actually came back here. This is a great one. This is a great example of everyone looks to. So I'm gonna keep piling through these comments because you guys have some really good suggestions. Everyone always thinks of like the league winners when they talk about the separators, right? Where we'll use that as our term, separators. And like I get that because they're like the best players in fantasy, right? Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor are the best two players in fantasy football right now. You want them on your teams. Full stop. Leonard Fournette also another one. You just want him. His role is too good on arguably one of the best offenses in the league, obviously with Tom Brady, blah, blah, blah. You want those guys. But like the separators, I feel like are these kinds of guys. Devontae Parker is one of the best examples in the league that honestly really didn't do shit all year, but have come into this new role or have come back. What Devontae Parker was mostly just health, have come back and stepped into a real role and a fantasy useful role. And they were probably later round picks. Like Devontae Parker is a guy, like if I look and there's Devontae Parker, right? Gabe Davis, Devontae Parker are similar examples. If I have them on teams, like I'm excited, especially because the Dolphins play the Jets this week. And it's like, man, 11th round or whatever, Devontae Parker comes in, 5 for 80 and 1 against the Jets. Like that can be huge on also what might be a low scoring week. And so it's guys like that. Somebody mentioned in the Discord, Amon-Ra St. Brown, another great example. Now it's been a little bit because Hawkinson and Swift have been hurt, and obviously but like another young player getting double-digit targets now. I know it's a bad team, but like if you're just getting that many targets, he could luckbox his way into 100 yards and a touchdown from a 16th round pick. So those kinds of guys I think are the ones that are the most interesting. Everybody knows Cooper Kupp is really good. Everybody knows Jonathan Taylor is really good, and I'm certainly not, hopeful for teams that like don't have Cooper Kupp. But how do you take the Cooper Kupp teams over the other Cooper Kupp teams, or how do you somehow, if maybe Cooper Kupp just goes 8 for 80, maybe even like 8 for 80 and 1, which I assume he's probably going to smash that every week. But if he just so happens to Siri, just my Siri on my computer just started recording what I was saying about Cooper Kupp. But how do you, how do we win these things? And it's Devontae Parker, it's Gabriel Davis, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Trying to think of some other guys similar to that. Obviously, yeah, this one is a fairly clear example. Has been probably the most popular one, like on Twitter and definitely in our Discord and stuff too. Obviously you get a late round running back that did literally nothing all year because he wasn't healthy, stepping into a big role. I have small concern. I'm a little more bearish on Rashad Penny, I think, than everyone else seems to be. Certainly, teams that I have him on, particularly with the way that I structure teams, are often running back needy. I got him through on a few, not a lot. I'm a little bit lower than a lot of other people here, but I got a few. and he's needed. So like I'm bullish on that aspect, but he's still not going to be a workhorse. They're still going to play those other backs. And he did score a touchdown 2 weeks ago, right? Yeah. But they still can't really run the ball. And he happened to pop off for a big game against Houston. And one of them was a super late, like almost 50-yard rushing touchdown. In a timeshare, as we get into tougher matchups, I think, it's going to be a lot thinner draw for Rashad Penny to be useful. But just having a back with a pulse that has a real role and has a chance to score, we're seeing how important that is. We're seeing how important that is right now. Oh my God, what you guys are saying right here, this is my favorite. I posted this on Twitter earlier today. I think the Jags can be one of the huge league winners, separators. The Jags in general. I don't really know who, like, I assume Flea. I assume that's what Flea says. James Robinson could be like 100%. James Robinson could be that guy. The Jags are the worst offense in the NFL. I'm not even sure it's close. The Texans are better, but they now play. They have been truly horrid all year. I mean, an absolute abomination all season. An embarrassment to football is frankly what the Jaguars are. But now, after that terrible season, they play Houston in the first round of the best ball playoffs and the Jets in the second round. The two worst defenses in the NFL. I believe, and I'm certain the moment I put this on record that they're going to prove me wrong with their true incompetence. But I believe that even they can put up points, and like real points, not like 13 points, like 20 plus points in both of these matchups. I really think they can. And they were all cheap. All the Jags were cheap, and they were so freaking bad that if you got Marvin Jones through, you got James Robinson through, you got Visca through, you got Trevor Lawrence he scored 25 fantasy points, I believe, the last time that, this was week 1, and they also got destroyed. But why can't Trevor Lawrence help you advance this week? It's the freaking Texans, man. And then the Jets. I think the Jags are one of the most fascinating situations. Debo is like, Dwayne McFarland posted. Dwayne does an awesome job posting utilization, he calls it. I like to use him for, just kind of, I just read the stuff that he posts on Twitter because it's really good to help you keep up with kind of like how players are being used in what roles, not because it's not just like snap percentages or routes or whatever. He's posting in-depth data on how players are being used. And he talked about Debo, and like, it's really true. I mean, they're not throwing Debo the ball anymore. And it could be, a couple weeks ago, he smashed just as a running back, right? That was the Jags game, I think. And they didn't need to throw. But the last few weeks, he's been a glorified running back, like not really getting targets. So that can flip at any moment. And I have Debo as one of my most important players. So I'm certainly hoping that he does. But like, we started the season when he was obviously not being used as a running back. And he was one of the greatest, market share receivers in the NFL. And that has completely gone. Obviously, Kittle has emerged. But I'm hoping for a little bit more juice from Debo in the passing game. Odell needs to play this week. You know what I mean? Odell needs to play this week, which I don't know if that's true, but he's an awesome one. Man, he looks good. He looked good on Monday night, and obviously all the opportunity in the world is there for him in that offense because Van is just not capable of being a huge volume hog And, Cup is, but there's still more volume to go around. And I think Odell's proven he can still play. So, yeah, these ones are good ones. I think I'm also a little more bearish on Sony. Everybody seems to think Sony's just going to take over this role. And I don't really see it. Now if Henderson doesn't come back, then yeah, of course I would love Sony. But I would bet against Sony kind of taking over the role, but certainly I would love to have Sony on teams compared to a lot of other running backs. And then yeah, same thing like CPAT. These guys just weren't even getting taken, and it's like if you have them and they can put up a big performance, and you just know they're like CPAT mainly is like one of the league winners, and he's on so few teams that you just know getting them through. Eli Mitchell, the same thing. If you get those teams through, what an edge, man. What a massive edge. And so that is something I think I've learned for next year is these, we're taking shots on all these bums in the last round or whatever. I was already taking the shots on the guys that I thought had upside, but being able to find the upside guys like that. And now next year it won't happen, right? There won't be a CPAT and there won't be an Eli Mitchell last year. They were pretty freaking rare circumstances. But I do think that's a lesson learned into at least exploring guys that maybe aren't even being drafted. And you don't have to have 15% of these guys, but you can get 2-3% of all these bums at the back end of drafts. And we see the edge in like a Cordero Patterson. See, I struggle with Gallup. Harbs, I'm interested in you and everybody's take on Gallup. I drafted a lot of Gallup. I don't think I got a ton of Gallup through to the playoffs. Again, I can look that up real quick. Oops. Let's see here. Oh, on DraftKings, I have a shitload of Gallup. I don't have a ton on Underdog. 18 DraftKings teams I got through have Gallup. So I am hoping that you are correct in him being a separator. He certainly can. Anyone on that offense can. I just have really struggled to see it, man, with the Cowboys. And now last week was a little bit of a fluky game in how it played out. Obviously, the defense totally dominating, the defense scoring. It's a mess. It's a total mess. But they have not been what I have hoped for. And now I need them to be. The Dallas passing game was a big part of my strategy this year. But it's tough for me to see Gallup doing the 6 for 120 and 2 in a week, given how everything's going right now. I could certainly be wrong, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong based on what I just looked at. This is an awesome example. I mean, name 17th or 18th round pick you would rather have than Hunter Renfrow. It's maybe only Eli Mitchell and CPAT, right? And I'm not certain you would want them over Renfrow. It's close. Obviously, it's dependent upon structure. If you have JT and Eckler, you want Renfrow. But he was a guy that everybody obviously was out on because of, the PSM or whatever. But the guy has the ability to earn targets. He's a very strong fit with the way his quarterback likes to play. He doesn't have a lot of competition for targets in terms of Darren Waller, obviously, and his spike has certainly coincided somewhat with Darren Waller's absence, but he's just been good all year. And I think we were too stubborn on what he looks like, the type of athlete that he is. He's a pretty good football player, and he is competing with Bryan Edwards and used to be competing with Henry Ruggs and now Zay Jones for targets on the outside, at least. And so, and my hand in the dirt take is he's clearly a fit with Derek Carr. And so I think I have some, not a lot, but I think, people being down on him And it's not like he's old either. I think people think he's old. Again, because of how he looks or whatever, but he's a great example. Kyler. I like the Kyler take. I also think Kyler take is a good take because I don't really think the nuke matters much. Maybe that's a terrible take. I mean, he matters. I'm certainly not saying that he doesn't matter, but all you're doing is taking out Hopkins, who to me looks like he's definitely taken a step back this year, and you're moving Christian Kirk to the outside, and you're putting Rondale Moore in. Is that a downgrade? Yeah, I guess. But AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz with Edmonds and Connor, Kyler will be fine. And Kyler, same thing. Kyler, has missed a bunch of time. He was en route to the MVP or something early on in the season, and that obviously hasn't come to fruition. But I don't think this is a terrible take. Probably mainly on DraftKings, solely because I just don't know how many touchdowns the Texans are going to score. Now they do get the Jags this week, but I certainly did not see the Texans losing every running back, including a bunch of guys they picked up during the season, and David Johnson being the last man standing when we got to the best ball playoffs. Maybe I should have saw that coming. I guess I don't know, but he's it's him and Royce Freeman left in the backfield, which is pretty crazy to say. But I don't think that's a bad take. Kittle is another one I struggle with. So obviously, what Kittle has done the last 2 weeks is absolutely insane, and proving why, and carried a few teams of mine across the finish line, thankfully, and proving the upside that this guy has. But we're not that far removed from, even when Kittle was playing, he wasn't smashing. He just did. He just went full George Kittle for 2 weeks, and so it's he could easily go back to 4 catches for 45 yards and no touchdowns in the playoffs. Now, am I expecting that? No, not necessarily. But Debo could go back to being the guy. Ayuk is out there, right? Those guys could score. Eli Mitchell could come back and they could run the ball, right? They've thrown it a little bit more, especially last week. They threw it a lot, actually, without Mitchell. So I struggle with George Kittle. You're certainly not upset having George Kittle on teams, but I don't want to overreact to 2 weeks, basically, is what I'm saying. Yeah, the San Fran matchup is bad, but the first 2 are good. Yeah, I kind of prefer Andrews. What do you guys think about tight end? Give me if you could have some either a specific tight end or a tight end strategy on a team heading in, what would you prefer? I kind of think it's Andrews because obviously Lamar being out sucks, but I think Huntley showed last week he's good enough to keep Andrews relevant, and they cannot score without throwing. They're a passing team, maybe a bad one, but they're a passing team, and he's the one. He's the first option. Yeah, he competes with Hollywood, but he's the number one player on their offense. Mark Andrews is on Baltimore with a bad defense that's going to give up a lot of points. And so I kind of feel like Andrews is the tight end that I want to have on teams moving forward. Even over Kelsey, even over Kittle, certainly over Waller, definitely over Hawk, definitely over Pitts. If I had to have, Gesicki is in the conversation because of how much later he went, right? He obviously gives you a bunch more elite early options. I still like my Komet teams, even though he's going to be very hit or miss. But I'm still a little bit bullish on Komet. I'm certainly missing guys. Ertz. I would really like Ertz on teams right now. Those are the guys sticking out off the top of my head. Yep, Ertz. He's close to mine. He was close to mine. Thank you. Thank you, Hayden. I earned them. I earned every one of those. Paul, please. We need it. We need it. Oh my God. I will not quit. I'll take your job, Hayden, if this wins, because I have this stack everywhere. I'll give up playing because I'll win the million and that'll be it. I'll retire and I'll come work with Josh and you can go do something else. You can go do basketball. You and Wob can go do basketball. I will be very happy. Robbie is a very important player for me, and so is Darnold. Love me some Marvin. Love. Which is sickening for me to say kind of out loud. But I think, man, these next 2 weeks set up really good for Marvin. Really good for Marvin. Kamara is a good one. This week will be tough for Kamara. We'll really see if Taysom can be good enough throwing to him because, nobody runs on the Bucs. I don't think Kamara is necessarily going to be able to run on the Bucs, so he has to get the passing work. And I think he will, but we'll see how effective he can be with Taysom. This is a great litmus test for Kamara down the stretch. But I got some Kamara going forward. I'm excited about that too. I agree. Ooh, really good call. Nico, the Texans are a fun example because they've gone full youth finally. Nico had 10 targets. Now they threw it 40-something times, but Nico was a full-time player and got 10 targets last week. So I'm excited. If you have Nico Collins, probably a little bit more on DraftKings, but on Underdog too. I think you're excited about Nico. With a full-time role and a lot of targets, I think you can get a Nico spike or two down the stretch, which would be sweet. This week is the best candidate for it against the Jags, but I would be excited about Nico. I think. Stop it. CH is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire? What's CH3? CEH. Anyway, CEH and Kelsey. Yeah, Chiefs. The Chiefs got to be fairly higher, like somewhat high up on the list, right? They have really underperformed, like totally. I mean, Kelsey isn't even the tight end one anymore. Andrews is, and the Chiefs have obviously CEH has been a bust, but like they're healthy now. We get some good matchups down the stretch, some games where they might get pushed. You might finally see the Kelsey explosion. You might finally see CEH put up some big games. And their advance rates are going to be much lower than we probably expected to start the year because they haven't been very good. Oh my God, yes. I don't know why I didn't think about that when you guys talked about Kamara, and Taysom absolutely could be one. Absolutely. How many teams can manufacture a late round quarterback with his upside? Because quarterback's bad this year. Really bad. Like across the board, it's bad. That's why we're talking about Kyler and stuff, because Josh Allen hasn't lived. Like Brady has been good. Stafford has been pretty good. Herbert has been pretty good. Dak hasn't been very good. Lamar has been shitty, and now he's hurt. Kyler has been hurt, but now he's back at least. Because Allen has underperformed. Mahomes has certainly not paid off his cost. All the rookies have sucked. Fitz is hurt. Darnold is hurt. Daniel Jones is hurt. Derek Carr's dust because their offense is dust. Like, quarterback is bad. Quarterback is really bad. Tua is good. Tua looks good. Which is sad because Tua isn't like some crazy upside option. Tua is just providing a floor. But Taysom, if you took the dive on Taysom late, it's like, oh man, you actually have an upside super late round quarterback that can give you a loaded roster around him. He absolutely could be. Yes, I also want Hendo back. He is like top 5 for me and most important players in the playoffs. Definitely. I just don't even know what's good for the Cowboys anymore. Oh, I like this one because Carter should be back this week. We'll see what the Jets do down the stretch, but Carter was, trending towards a borderline league winner, and then obviously got hurt, and the Jets are somehow worse with Zach Wilson. Good Lord, he is bad. Yep, definitely. Kendrick Bourne, great late round pick. Definitely had the nut run out. And then, that's just how things go. It's just a proven guy that there was no way in which Hunter Renfrow was not going to have spike weeks. It's a fact. Because if they get into a negative game script, you knew obviously the Ruggs and Waller thing has made Renfrow a stone smash. But even if those things did not happen, it was a proven lock that Hunter Renfrow was going to have good games this year. It's not really debatable. It's how many and like how much upside does he really have? But like, how is he different than other guys we were taking bets on later? Like, if you get the nut run out, you can be a smash when you're in this role and this type of player that Hunter Renfrow is. It's just, we get a lot of things wrong. Love T. I think I said in Discord recently. I think the Bengals in general, I'm glad you posted T, but the Bengals in general, I think it's probably not Boyd, but T, Chase, and Mixon, I think their offense is so concentrated between four guys that I think like if it were up to me, I would probably have a Bengal on every best ball team that was advancing. Because I think even if they don't score a bunch, it's just so concentrated between guys that like it's like a lock. One of Chase and Higgins are going to have a good game every single week, sometimes two, and or Mixon. So definitely agree. 100%. Couldn't agree more with that. If you watched Spike Week videos, you would have done the opposite. That's a victory lap. Got one thing right out of 100. Gronk is a great one. Yeah, Gronk is right up there with tight ends, 100%. He rivals. I totally forgot about Gronk, so thank you for bringing him up. He rivals Knox. Yes, Knox. So Andrews, Gronk, Knox, maybe Gesicki. Gesicki's after those guys. Freiermuth, yes, another good call. Oh yeah, DPJ. Oh man, I was getting fairly excited looking through some DPJ teams that moved on because boy, you want to talk about everything coming up aces for somebody here in the playoffs. I think that's what's happening for DPJ, and I think he's one of those. The Nico example was great earlier. I really like. I'm excited for Nico's role to grow. But DPJ is like the guy that can like really like what he had a 100-yard and 2 touchdown game already this year. Like I don't really think Nico can do that. DPJ can be the guy that like breaks a slate and wins you the $1 million. So very excited for DPJ. Yeah, definitely Knox. Yep. 100% what happened at tight end. Oh yeah, I agree. I think if you have Dalvin on advancing teams, you should be very excited. Somehow he went from one of the worst picks to one of the best picks. And it's not just last week. I think last week certainly probably puts a little cherry on top of it. But, obviously now Madison is out. You just have they're playing they're trying to make the playoffs still. And so Zimmer is just going to ride this guy. And we saw last year what he can do. He hasn't quite lived up to that this year, but we saw what he can do, from an upside perspective. And he's actually run a little bad this year, maybe a little regression from last season. But, with how bad running back is, Dalvin could very easily be the guy that you want to have here in the playoffs. God damn it. I was really hoping you wouldn't say this because I know you mentioned this, but I agree. So here's my problem with the Jimmy G thing. It's he just had his best game. He scored 24 fantasy points. Something like that. I can look it up. It's the problem with a guy like Jimmy G is just he had 20. He threw for he threw for 296 and 2 touchdowns. They threw the ball 41 times. I guess he had a 30 point. Yeah, I forgot he had the game where he had 2 rushing touchdowns at the goal line and he scored 30. He scored 30 fantasy points earlier this year. But it's just he just doesn't do it's crazy that all these weapons that he has and he still can't put up. Dude, how can you not get 25 fantasy points more frequently? And so if he ran a little bit, I would have been yeah, I agree with you. I prefer Lance, but I want to take a little bit of Jimmy late because he does have upside. But he's just this team can score 40 points a week and this dude can't even put up 25 fantasy points. It's crazy. I mean, they threw the ball 40 times and scored 30 or whatever last week, and he scored 20 points. He's throwing checkdowns to George Kittle and Debo, and they're breaking 50-yard touchdowns, and the guy can't even score any fantasy points. He's so bad, man. I mean, I have a lot of pits, advanced and harbs, so I'm hopeful, but I don't feel really good about it, honestly. So maybe a little bit of it's worn me down. The Pitts thing has worn me down. I got really excited after whatever it was when they went to London. He started off on a hot stretch and really got going. But dude, the lack of touchdowns is just it's painful. It's painful when a very important player for you just never gets any work. Never gets to score any touchdowns. It's painful. So it's hard to be too bullish. You know what I mean? But he clearly has the ability and the role and I mean this scenario for Kyle Pitts is what more can you ask for? People were hating on this rookie tight end thing. Me liking him in the 5th round ended up being wrong, but the reason for people hating him in the 5th round, and I think Rich Rebar said it the other day. He's everybody was right about Kyle Pitts. It's you were wrong for taking him in the 5th round, and you were wrong for your reasons not to take him in the 5th round. It's just that's just how it goes. He's interesting. I'm not upset Jerry Jeudy is on teams. They need to be pushed to throw the ball a little bit more because he's the market share has been great for Jerry Jeudy since he's come back with Teddy, but they need to be pushed a little bit more. The offense revolves around Javonte and Melvin right now, and the defense is playing well, so they need to be pushed for Jeudy to really be a smash. But the market share is nice for Jerry Jeudy. All right, I think we hit an hour. Damn, that flew by. Hold on, I'll hit this check. Stafford Cup, yeah, yep. Looks like a pretty similar list to mine. All right, guys. So, plan of attack moving forward. Tomorrow I'm going to do a gauntlet draft stream tomorrow afternoon. Then I'm going to be gone for this weekend, and next week we're going to keep plowing through playoff draft. I like talking about this shit. I don't know if you guys like talking about it, and we'll keep kind of sweating these playoff weeks together. Do some streams talking about where everything stands. You guys can share. Next week will be really fun, right? You guys can share some advancing teams. We can really start to dive into. Okay, we're getting really close to the end of this thing. If you have not joined the Spike Week Discord, go to spikeweek.com. In the top right, there's a link to the Discord. It is 100% free. And the conversation is right now, it is 24/7 around the clock. Awesome, fun discussion around best ball. We will all be sweating our contests together as we close out this best ball regular season. And like I said, tomorrow I will catch you guys. We're going to start to dive real deep into these playoff best ball contests. But for me and for my dogs, as always, who didn't, is this the first show they didn't, like in the history of Spike Week, that they didn't go crazy and bark? I think so. Give it a thumbs up. I will catch you guys tomorrow. See ya. Peace.